revolutionary socialist content of its stand to win that support. Four, black liberation means revolution. What is the relationship of the struggle for black self-determination to the whole worldwide revolution to defeat U.S. imperialism and internationalize its resources toward the goal of creating a classless world? No black self-determination could be won which would not result in a victory for the international revolution as a whole. The black proletarian colony, being dispersed to such a large and exploited section of the workforce, is essential to the survival of imperialism. Thus, even if the black liberation movement chose to try to attain self-determination in the form of a separate country, a legitimate part of the right to self-determination, existing side by side with the U.S. imperialism could not survive if they won it, and so would never give up without being defeated. Thus, a revolutionary nationalist movement could not win without destroying the state power of the imperialists. And is for this reason that the black liberation movement as a revolutionary nationalist movement for self-determination is automatically in and of itself an inseparable part of the whole revolutionary struggle against U.S. imperialism and for international socialism. However, the fact that black liberation depends on winning the whole revolution does not mean that it depends on waiting for and joining with a mass white movement to do it. The genocidal oppression of black people must be ended and does not allow any leisure time to wait. If necessary, black people could win self-determination, abolishing the whole imperialist system and seizing state power to do it. Without this white movement, although the cost among whites and blacks both would be high. Blacks could do it alone if necessary because of their centralness to the system, economically and geomilitarily, and because of the level of unity, commitment, and initiative which will be developed in waging a people's war for survival and national liberation. However, we do not expect that they will have to do it alone, not only because of the international situation, but also because the real interests of masses of oppressed whites in this country lie with the black liberation struggle, and the conditions for understanding and fighting for these interests grow with the deepening of the crises. Already, the black liberation movement has carried with it an upsurge of revolutionary consciousness among white youth, and while there are no guarantees, we can expect that this will extend and deepen among all oppressed whites. To put aside the possibility of blacks winning alone leads to the racist position that blacks should wait for whites and are dependent on whites acting for them to win. Yet the possibility of blacks winning alone cannot in the least be a justification for whites failing to shoulder the burden of developing a revolutionary movement among whites. If the first error is racism by holding back black liberation, this would be equally racist by leaving blacks isolated to take on the whole fight and the whole cost for everyone. It is necessary to defeat both racist tendencies. One, that blacks shouldn't go ahead with making the revolution, and two, that blacks should go ahead alone with making it. The only third path is to build a white movement which will support the blacks in moving as fast as they have to and are able to, and still itself keep up with that black movement, enough so that white revolutionaries share the cost and the blacks don't have to do the whole thing alone. Any white who does not follow this third path is objectively following one of the other two, or both, and is objectively racist. 5. Anti-imperialist revolution and the united front. Since the strategy for defeating imperialism in semi-feudal colonies has two stages, the new democratic stage of a united front to throw out imperialism and then the socialist stage, some people suggest two stages. For the U.S., two. One to stop imperialism, the anti-imperialist stage, and another to achieve the dictatorship of the proletariat, the socialist stage. It is no accident that even the proponents of this idea can't tell you what it means. In reality, imperialism is a predatory international stage of capitalism. Defeating imperialism would When imperialism is defeated in the U.S., it will be replaced by socialism, nothing else. One revolution, one replacement process, one seizure of state power, the anti-imperialist revolution and the socialist revolution, one and the same stage. To talk of this as two separate stages, the struggle to overthrow imperialism and the struggle for socialist revolution, is as crazy as if Marx had talked about the proletarian socialist revolution as a revolution of two stages. One, the overthrow of capitalist state power, and second, the establishment of socialist state power. Along with no two stages, there is no united front with the petite bourgeoisie, because its interests as a class aren't for replacing imperialism with socialism. As far as people within this country are concerned, the international war against imperialism is the same task as the socialist revolution for one overthrow of power here. There is no united front for socialism here. One reason people have considered the united front idea is the fear that if we were talking about a one-stage socialist revolution, we would fail to organize maximum possible support among people, like some petite bourgeoisie, who would fight imperialism on a particular issue, but weren't for revolution. When the petite bourgeoisie interest is for fighting imperialism on a particular issue, but not for overthrowing it and replacing it with socialism, it is still contributing to revolution to that extent, not to some intermediate thing which is not imperialism and not socialism. Someone not for revolution is not for actually defeating imperialism either, but we still can and should unite with them on particular issues. But this is not a united front, and we should not put forth some joint united front line with them to the exclusion of our own politics, because their class position isn't against imperialism as a system. In China or Vietnam, the petite bourgeoisie's class interest could be for actually winning against imperialism. This was because their task was driving it out, not overthrowing its whole existence. For us here, throwing it out means not from one colony, but all of them, throwing it out of the world, the same thing